This weather is becoming tedious. I'm not quite sure what the hell I'm going to be able to film today. I could turn the lights on, I suppose, but I was hoping to get the first part of the project plants done today, but I just don't think I've got enough light, and with that noise in the background it would drive me up the wall, quite honestly. I don't know what I'm going to do. I will think on it and see how the day progresses. For this rain to keep up all day would be unusual. It's probably going to pass over, but I'll come up with something. But at the moment this is just not filming weather, I would call it. It just isn't. You know, noise in the background, and it's distracting, both for yourselves and for me. And it's also cold out here, which is not ideal. And it's only just over 14 degrees at the moment, but then I've only just opened the door to let the heat from the house out here, try and warm it up a bit for the daytime. So I'll see what I can do. I'll be back. Right, the rain's stopped, but the light is still appalling. So I've thought I'm just going to do a quick video for now, and then try and film the first part of the project updates a bit later in the day. Maybe it will brighten up a bit. We shall see. I'll get on to that. Just had some sad news. A good friend at, well, he's a member of both Orchid societies. His wife hasn't got many days to go. Just shows how fragile we are as a species. Like some of our orchids. Yeah, so sad news. And news on me, I've just had my last session with my chiropractor yesterday, so I'm a bit sore today. She wants to see me again in 3 to 4 weeks. I had 2 questions before the gap. Any idea how she thought it might have happened? Answer, no. But she's quite adamant that this has been building up through various problems that I was unaware of, shall we say. She made me get in and out of a chair several times and then taught me how to do it properly. So that's a lifetime thing of bad habit, and obviously with the work I do on the computer I'm in and out of that chair quite frequently. So I've been sort of swinging myself out of the chair with my sort of feet together. And she said, you're using your back to push yourself out of the chair every time. That's got to stop. So I had to be taught how to get out of a chair properly. So I've got to shuffle forward to the edge of the chair and then put my feet in a position where they will be directly under me after I've stood up, and push myself up with my legs and stop swinging my back to get out of the chair. So that's going to take some practice. And also I've got an exercise to do, because she said if you can increase the strength in your core muscles, then you'll ease the load on your back muscles. So I've got an exercise to do called the dead bug exercise, which is very unelegant to say the flipping least. You can look it up. I'm not demonstrating it. And that's going to take a bit of practice to even get the hang of, because my brain doesn't work that way. You know, it's a little bit like the thing that I can do very well, which is you know, rubbing your tummy and pat your head, or moving your thumbs in opposite directions in a circle. I can do that, so I'm sure I'll be able to do this exercise. I'll just have to flip in practice. But it's very unelegant, to say the least. And I'm supposed to do 12 reps twice a day with a 12-hour gap. So split the day up. So that would be quite early in the morning and then sort of early evening, I suppose. I'm not sure that's going to get done every day. I'll see what I can do, I suppose. Anyway, on a more cheery note, we have some new blooms. One of the Tolumnias is just opening. I won't say it's fully open yet, but it's certainly on its way. One of my favourite ones, this is. If it is the one I think it is, Tolumnia Peach, or it might not be. I think Tolumnia Peach has actually got a tag on it, so I'm not quite sure what this one's called, but I can check it against the pictures in my notes and see if I've got a picture that matches this one. This is a colour changer quite dramatically, because when it opens it's only got two real colours on it. It's got the deepest of reds, deep, very deep red, and yellow, and it's got this very faint veining around the edge, very faint. Now that colour will increase quite dramatically as time goes on, so we'll keep our eye on that one. But yeah, that's just opened, and I have to move that out of the way now so I can get in the other corner. And at long last, against the light, I can see the buds forming on the Laelia. I don't know whether you're going to be able to see that because the camera's going to adjust the light. I might have to electronically play with this a little bit, but you can see the buds forming now. Inside the sheaths there are actual buds. That's still quite a long way from opening. It's a flipping nuisance. You know, it's a real don't hold your breath, that one. And this is the spike that's behind the other one, quite honestly. The other one is going to open first, but I can't get at that at the moment. And because I had to move this pot to a lower shelf for the height of the spikes, basically, a nuisance, it's difficult to get this pot down. I have to get lots of things out of the way and be incredibly careful when I lift the pot not to bash the spikes on the roof. So it's a little bit of a nuisance at the moment, but yeah. I hope it's going to be worth it when it does open. And it's still one of my favourite Cattleya blooms. It's the one that stopped me dead in my tracks. So I don't think that impression is ever going to leave me. So we've got that to come. I've got my species Cattleya. I will try and get it down, but again, it faces the light, and getting it down is not easy without bashing stuff. And as it's got buds on at the moment, I do have to be incredibly careful getting this down. It keeps getting hooked up on everything. But we do have two gorgeous buds forming on this, and this is Cattleya Genmanii. This came from Big Box Junior, so this was from Beatrix, and this will be its first time blooming for the plant as well as for me. Only two buds, but it looks like they're going to be quite large, and I haven't got a clue what colour it's going to be, and I'm not going to look it up. I'm going to wait and see. I like surprises sometimes, so we'll wait. So I'm just hanging that temporarily at the moment. And the next bit of magic, probably down the line a bit, is going to be this Tolumnia, which has 3 spikes. And I have noticed that these spikes have got a lot of buds on. This is Tolumnia Peach, right, so we do have my favourite one about to bloom. 3 spikes, it's never done that before, and to me it looks like they will all be out together, and we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, around 10 blooms on that first spike. I've got a job to hold this still, they're so long. So we've got that to come, and there's another Tolumnia, another couple of Tolumnias with spikes on, but not as far advanced as that. We've got this little thing which should have been in the lot that got dumped, and its saving grace was it has a spike, and I still am not sure what this is going to be, but I'm sure it's bloomed before for me, so as soon as the bloom's open I can backtrack and find out what it is. But as I said, that's its saving grace. It's the same with the Nellie Isla, which is in a bad way, but it has produced a nice spike. So we'll at least see the blooms before I decide what to do with the plant. But that has perked up this year. That was in a right sorry state, that was. Yeah, so those two were on borrowed time. And as I said, this one's saving grace was its spike. This one's saving grace was I love the blooms, and the plant is perking up. You know, I don't mind doing a bit of rescue now and again. I don't want a room full of the flipping things. But, you know, we're sort of getting there with those two, and we'll see what happens next. So that's those. There was something else I wanted to share. Oh, yes, the Twinkle. The Twinkle now is not fully open, but it's not far off. Still got buds to come round this side of the plant, but it will look a little better than that when the rest of the blooms open. But it's going to be one of those where, as these blooms open, I suspect the ones round the back there will start to fade. But nonetheless, it's even got little spikes down here with buds on. So that's looking good. That's its best blooming by far, and that's Twinkle Red Fantasy, that one. It has actually got a name. And I'll catch up, because when I did my combination video with everything in bloom, as always, I was reminded of the ones I'd missed. And we forgot the Masdevallia. And I haven't had a Masdevallia in bloom for such a long time, it's criminal to have forgotten it. And although it's got a little brown mark on it, it's still actually looking good. It's still hanging in there. It's been open quite a while now. Whether there will be any more blooms to follow on, I don't know. As I said, that's the first time it's bloomed for flipping ages. And I mean ages, probably well over a couple of years. But at least it has. So we're getting there with that one. And I also forgot my little mini mounted Phalaenopsis, which is still in bloom. Now that's dropped a couple of blooms on the spike, but it's still pushing out more buds. And it's been in bloom a very long time. It's not a healthy looking plant. It's got some roots, so I don't think there's any active ones growing, but they hydrate fine. And I suspect shortly it will come back into vegetative growth, but that might wait for the better temperatures. You know, its growing season will be when it's warmer, not when it's freezing cold like it is now. But it's a nice spike. It just keeps looking, and they're pretty little blooms. You know, I shouldn't have forgotten that, really, should I? So those were the two forgottens. Oh, get those added in. Oh dear, I wonder how much longer this back problem's going to go on. This must be heading towards the end of the third week now. It's never lasted this long before. But we're working on it. That's all I can do. And stop doing daft things that are, you know, just continually keeping it in a state where it's bordering on going wrong. So we'll work on that as well. The next twinkles to open will be these two. The buds are showing their colour now, again here. I've got a feeling that both of these are actually Twinkle Cinnamon. I got a feeling when I went to repot this, I took some older bulbs off and it fell in two, and I'm not quite sure why, but I seem to remember I decided to mount both pieces, so I think these are both the same, but until they open I've got no guarantee. But looking at the colour of the buds and the colour starting to show, I would say they're both the cinnamon one. Which is pretty good stuff because they're very attractive, lovely autumn colours. So we'll see how it goes. And the other little pieces up here that are going to bloom soon, that's the yellow one. That one I do know, definitely. And thanks for your some of your ideas for the next set of project plants. The one thing I am going to do, part one, which is mainly the oncidiums, is too big, far too big. It makes the video far too long and awkward to do. So the next, I'll get that one done, you know, the last update, but the next set of project plants I'm going to stick to about 6, which makes for a reasonable length video without having to cut short the chat, you know, because it would go on too long and all that sort of stuff. I'll feel comfortable with around 6. And I've yet to finalise which ones it'll be because I haven't got the last updates done yet. Let's get that lot out of the way first and then we'll work from there. And we've had a few requests for for plants, but I've also had some requests from friends at the Orchid Societies. So as I've said, I know it sounds a bit harsh, but they do come first simply because I can take the plant to the Orchid Society and hand it over. No packing them up, no trying to find a box the right size and, you know, sorting all that stuff out. So it just makes life easier, which is part of the reason for the downsizing in the first place. So as I say, there's still a few more to dump. I haven't dumped, there's 3 of the holy clay pots are going to go. The 2 rescue cattleyas are definitely on the list, they're going. I just didn't get round to it last time I watered them. And I've got one other Cattleya where the plant is it's just a lousy plant. Unfortunately, it's got a bud on it, so I'm going to wait till after it's bloomed and then chuck it. It's just not a very good plant. It's got one new growth with the bud that's got a green leaf on. All the other leaves are yellowing. It's just not a happy plant, so it's just not worth the effort. And it's not like it's just a no ID hybrid, one of the magenta sorts. I've got others like that, so you know, it's nearly a duplicate on the grounds that I've got others that are similar with no name, of course. So we'll go from there. Right, I'm going to leave it at that for today, and hopefully I will get part 1 of the Project Orchids at least filmed today, and then I can, because they're fiddly to put together, because I've got to put the stills in and then do a soundtrack for each one of those, because obviously they're a photo, not a video. Film the plants as they are now. Well, I don't need to do a separate soundtrack for those. I do those as I go. And then put all the bits together, put the plant names on, put the pop-ups for the blooms. They are quite fiddly to put together. But as I only do them 4 times a year, and they're quite popular, I'm happy to do them. But I don't want them with so many plants in. As I said, the one with the Oncidium types is just far too big. So hopefully I can get that filmed today. And we'll go from there. The, what the hell is this? I've forgotten again. Aliciara, I forget. I'd love to have somebody definitively decide how that should be said. Given it's going to have a Latin, although it's a made-up name, it's an intergeneric name, it's probably wrong anyway, because you have to bear in mind any intergeneric that has an element of Odontoglossum in it is now wrong, because they've all been reclassified mainly as Oncidiums. And some of the intergeneric names also have an Oncidium in there, so that if there's 2 Oncidiums in there, one of which was originally an Odontoglossum, the name's now wrong. Doesn't reflect what's in it anymore. It might even be a Bialara by now, depending on how the name changes went underneath it. But half of this is Sotoanum. That hasn't changed. Although there is a story, I don't know whether I've done it before. The original description of the plant, Sotoanum, donkey's years ago, back in the 1800s, sort of, you know, really, really long time ago, even before my time, was actually described in infinite detail, a botanical description, but it had a line drawing of the blooms with exquisite detail, but it was in black and white. Yeah? And it was always assumed to be that plant. And then later discoveries with the DNA getting in there and everything like that, it was found that the plant being described was actually yellow, not pink. Yeah? And that plant was originally called, I'll do a pop-up, I can't even say it. So the yellow plant maintained the original name, and the pink one had to be given a totally new name, which is what we now know as Sotoanum. So there's a lot of the old crosses to do with Oncidium types that have got the wrong plant in them, named incorrectly. So that, you know, and they may have even been registered with that wrong name, because it's a relatively recent discovery that the description, as I said, described a yellow plant, not a pink plant. And it's the pink one that's now Sotoanum. The original yellow one kept its original name. Now we know what colour it is. So yeah, even the experts get it wrong sometimes and maintain the incorrectness for a long period of time. I think that name was named incorrectly for about 150 years. Yeah, it's a bit longer than even I've been around. But anyway, this has got about half of the pink Sotoanum in it, which shows through, and it shows through in the fragrance as well. And then it's made up of lots of other little bits and bobs. Anyway, I will see you next time, and hopefully part 1 of the Project Orchids updates will be posted tomorrow, I suspect. No promises, but I'll see what I can do. And see you next time. Bye for now.